The Democratic Party, we feel, is becoming a regional party. I think you would probably agree with that. It's becoming very difficult, with the exception of maybe still some pockets of the upper Midwest. It's basically become a
East and West Coast.
It's an urban, suburban at most political party. It's extremely regional. And as a result, you get people like our chair of the Florida Democratic Party, Nikki Fried, thinking that they did like something incredible because they only lost by 15 points in these congressional races instead of by 35. And what is actually especially about FL06 is that Randy Fine I thought that there was maybe a miracle possibility if the Democrats weren't such an inept, terrible.
Am I right that Randy Fine didn't even live in the district?
Not only did he not live in the district, this is the statement that our governor put out earlier today regarding Randy Fine winning this seat. Get a load of this.
Well, what happened with the Randy Fine is exactly what I said. He would win, but underperform. And that's what happened. President won that by 30 points in 24. I won it by 35 plus points in 2022. Fine is out there saying he won by the same margin I did. That is a total lie. I won by more than twice that he did in 2022 in that district.
Oh my! How small this?
What schoolyard are we playing in here? That's wonderful. That's DeSantis. In the extreme. That's beautiful. So even the Republicans don't like Randy Fine. It's just that they didn't like DeSantis when he ran for president. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say it gets even better. So
let him finish.
So what happened there? The media is saying, Republicans had to spend money, and they did. They spent millions and millions of dollars. In 24, not 1 cent had to be spent in outside money in this district. Because I don't know if are we actually in that district? I know he's got part of Marion, so it's a little over there. And so the fact that money had to be spent, that's not a good thing. This should have been a going away. And what happened was, but the media is trying to say, it shows. I think the Wall Street Journal said something about this is like an anti-MAGA backlash. I don't think that's true at all for this district. I think you have a candidate in Randy Fine who, he's a squish. Okay. He supported restrictions on Second Amendment rights back in 2018. He tried to defeat my immigration proposal to help President Trump enforce immigration laws. And he tried to enact a make Florida a de facto sanctuary state. So when people see that, our base voters don't get excited about that. You're not giving them a reason to go out and vote. And he's also, just the way he conducts himself, is somebody, he repels people. He's repelled people in the legislature.
He's repelling.
That's fabulous. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And can I just say, very few people in politics would understand how to repel people so well as DeSantis. But the fact of the matter is, I don't disagree with what he's saying. He's probably right about Randy Fine. I'm quite sure of that. But there's very little evidence that district has cared who the Republican Party put up, right? If you've got the R next to your name, you're going to win the district, right? That has been the pattern. What we saw here was there was a lot of people in this very Republican district who had a desire to send some kind of message to Donald Trump and to Elon Musk. Now, did the Democrats give them a good enough tool, enough of a space in which to do that? Obviously not, because they didn't flip the seat. And this is one area that I've dealt with for a long time in a lot of settings. Special elections are a big fascination of mine. And of course, the classic model on special elections was when Nixon in 73, 74 was in trouble on Watergate. And it was amazing. Some of the most Republican districts in the country in special elections elected Democrats, right? There was this desperate signaling from the American people about the need to make a change, to do something as regards Nixon. We haven't gotten there yet. And I do have concern about whether the Democratic Party has got its act together. You say the Democratic Party is a regional party. I would go a step further. I would say, to my view at this point, the Democratic Party is a a collection of state parties, a handful of which are run by really capable people.
Wisconsin's one of them. Not a humble brag, but yes, Wisconsin is one, and Minnesota would be another one.
And I think there's some evidence Michigan does a pretty good job, because these are battleground states, right? Minnesota included. These are states that could go either way.
The problem with Michigan is that it's got way too corrupt of a hierarchy.
Well,
Michigan politics is very corrupt at the time.
But it's also had a complexity of its politics too.
Sure. But I would definitely say that Wisconsin and Minnesota, if you're looking for states where the Democratic Party can sort of hang their hat outside of a state like Massachusetts, I would say that those are the two states that I think that the people that are pulling the levers of power genuinely care about working people. Maybe not completely overall, but I would say that there is definitely a populist lean.
They know they have to build that coalition, right? They know they have to, and they have to do an urban-rural coalition. I'll give you an example, taking us back to Wisconsin. Not that I want to neglect Florida, but one of the things, Ben Wickler is the chair of the Wisconsin Party. He knows Wisconsin history well. He knows the state well. He's deep-rooted in it. In the week or so before the election, and maybe this is important because we talk so much about Musk influencing things one way. It's important to understand that Wickler and his group, his people, not just the party, but unions and others associated with him, they ran a pretty brilliant campaign. In the week or so before the election, Wickler spent an inordinate amount of time in small Republican counties in rural northern and western Wisconsin. And every time he would cross a county line, he would pull his car over and take a picture, or maybe an aide took a picture in front of the line saying, "Welcome to Langlade County, welcome to Forest County, welcome to Grant County," right? And he'd post that on social media all over the place. And it was a way of saying, look, we're going to fight for these votes out here. We're going to try and get the best vote we can, even from these very rural places. I don't think the Democratic Party nationally even understands that concept, that if you can get 35, 40% of the vote in a rural county, that's going to add on to your vote in the urban areas, and it's going to bring you over the top. And the reason for that, the reason that exists is that, in doing Michigan and Wisconsin, is that both of these are states that had an independent third party in the 1930s and 1940s. Minnesota had the Farmer Labor Party, which was really a social democratic party. Wisconsin had the Progressive Party, which intriguingly had a weird sort of social democratic / libertarian kind of mix in it, right? It was like small business and factory workers and unions. And it was this interesting mix. But these two had these different parties that really were outside of the norm of American politics. They were genuinely, by most measures, well to the left of American politics. Those old parties merged into the Democratic Party, but they never really died. And this is something to understand. You understand why Minnesota and Wisconsin stand out? It is because they've got history, and there are still plenty of people who understand, that distinction, right? I'm not a national Democrat. I am a Wisconsin Democrat. I am a Minnesota Democrat. They even had it for a long time in North Dakota, which had the old nonpartisan league. And North Dakota has become a much harder state for Democrats. But that this tradition of having more than a Democratic Party is something that would benefit a state like Florida. It would benefit many other states if there was some sort of deep-rooted progressive tradition that was beyond just the standard mix in partisan politics. And I've obviously written about this for a very, very long time, but I really believe it's the crisis for the Democratic Party. It doesn't have a pull. In most places, it doesn't have a pull to the left.